We got a lot to cover. The New York Jets make you hate football. More on that shortly. Joe Beningo will join us at about 4:30 today. A lot to get to, but I got to tell you, and I know this is not a popular opinion, but I always feel this way when something inevitable happens. It's like you have a girlfriend, and you know it's over. You know you got to dump her. You know, it didn't work out, and you've been thinking about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then when you finally do it, you know it's the right thing to do, but you're going to miss those fun times. You're going to miss the potential that you had. And when the New York Giants made it official about 2 hours ago that they're dumping Daniel Jones's ass, there was something kind of sad about it. This guy's been in our lives for 6 years. There were moments in which the night outs were great. Like, they were crazy.
Right, 2 years ago?
Oh, my God. Remember that crazy night in Minnesota? We were hanging by the chandeliers. And you thought, I'm going to marry this one. Like, this is going to be the one I'll be with for the rest of my life. And then, yeah, there's a lot of bad crap that happens, and so you know it's the right thing. So when Brian Daboll came in front of a microphone a few hours ago, and he made it official that they were dumping Daniel Jones and promoting Tommy DeVito, I don't know if you felt this way, Teak, but there was a little bit of sadness.
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit.
Just it's sad that it didn't work out because all of the benefits of the doubt that he was given. Tommy, are you happy back there? You finally got your wish. But I think we knew that something like this, without success this season, was inevitable. You mentioned it. You said it. It's the perfect word. If the Giants were going to keep losing one-possession games, if Daniel Jones was going to look gun-shy at moments, if he was not going to be able to make plays in the moments, eventually this was going to happen. And unfortunately it did. Like, there's a lot of one-score games that they didn't win. And if they had, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We'd be talking about, they can get to the playoffs and do something special when you get there in the second season. But that's not – it never felt like a reality. It felt like, as you said, an inevitability. At some point, you were going to have to move on from Daniel Jones. You just didn't know how it was going to happen.
There's a thing, and I've noticed this because it happened with Robert Saleh a few weeks ago, where we get excited when somebody we get sick of is fired or benched. Like, we're like, oh, thank God, no more Daniel Jones, or thank God Robert Saleh's not coaching the team. And forget about them as humans, because that's a separate thing, and both those guys will be fine. As a sports fan, I'm sad, because when they drafted Daniel Jones, you had hope. When you won a playoff game in Minnesota, you had hope. With Robert Saleh, just to bring him into the conversation, when he got fired a few weeks ago, there was a sadness because when they hired him, I thought he was the guy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow, we're going to find our forever head coach. So whenever these things happen, which inevitably happens a lot here in New York sports, there's this emotional reaction to celebrate. I don't think it's a day of celebration. I think it's a day of sadness. This didn't work. And, yeah, it took a long time to get to this moment, but it sucks. It means the New York Giants are going through the same thing the Jets go through on cycle every 3 or 4 years, which is we're trying to find our answer. Now, Tommy DeVito is the best person for now because he's young enough where it's, hey, let's see if he could possibly be the answer. But the odds are he's not the answer.
Right.
And the odds are Tommy DeVito's the fun guy we're hanging out with for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But you're going to go back on that search to find your forever quarterback. And those searches, bro, they're not fun.
Well, and they take a long time, especially when the last few draft classes have maybe two good quarterbacks in them. And so you look at the upcoming draft class and it's like, all right, who is it? Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. After that, you don't really trust any of those guys to be your franchise guy, which just goes to show you when you make that decision, as the Giants did, Dave Gettleman, 6 years ago, to draft Daniel Jones, if you miss, it sets you back a decade. Right? If you don't get that pick right and you invest all of the resources in the short term, and then ultimately, in this analogy that Evan was giving, they didn't just date Daniel Jones, they married him.
Yeah.
Right? They gave him a 4-year contract. They married Daniel Jones. When you miss on that, it's hard to recover. You have to end up tearing everything down again and then trying to build it back up with some semblance of again, hope, the words you use. And it just doesn't feel that way. Now, Tommy DeVito, I'm happy for the kid. I think he's got an energy about him. I think he's, as Dave said, probably the most important thing he said in this press conference that was earlier today, he's got a quick release, meaning he'll get rid of the ball, something Daniel Jones struggled with for a lot of this season. But he also brings you an unknown. Like, you don't know.
Right.
We know what Daniel Jones is right now. I think we know intuitively who Drew Lock is, even though he's never played for any of our teams. I know a lot of people want to question, well, why is Drew Lock the backup and not Tommy DeVito? And why wasn't Tommy DeVito the backup for most of the season? If once Daniel Jones gets benched, you're just going to put Tommy DeVito in there. The answer is simple. If Tommy DeVito was the backup and Drew Lock wasn't here, about week 4, we would have been saying, put the backup in.
Oh, that's why you think they did it?
100%.
Interesting.
Because Tommy DeVito has a following for what, I mean, it happened in like the first home game, right? Weren't they chanting for Tommy DeVito?
Right.
Yeah, they definitely were in the Viking game and in the Eagle game.
Right. And so
you're saying it would have been worse if he was the backup.
If he was the actual backup,
yeah,
then that would have happened after every one of those. Look, the Giants haven't won at home.
Right.
They're 0-5 at home. The Giants also have not won a division game. They're 0-4 in the division. And so, like, the calls for this would have happened a lot sooner in the season, and it probably would have gotten ugly.
Your reasoning makes a lot of sense, but that's not a good reason if that's why they signed Drew Lock.
Right.
If they signed Drew Lock because they didn't want crowds chanting.
Right. They wanted a buffer.
Right. That's not a good reason.
I don't think it is, but I mean, ultimately that's what it came down to.
So to me, and I'm not a Drew Lock guy, and I didn't want them to sign Drew Lock. I wanted them during the offseason to bring in someone to compete with Daniel Jones. And I know you hate when I bring it up, but the guy I brought up was Justin Fields.
Of course.
It didn't work out, whatever.
Right.
That was what I envisioned. I envisioned, hey, have someone like young and legitimate enough to compete with DJ for the job. We'll see what happens.
Right. 'Cause
once they don't do that,
yeah,
I thought, okay, fine, bring in a backup. If Daniel gets hurt, which I thought he would, he did not, credit to him, that guy probably gives you a better chance to win than Tommy DeVito. Tommy played well last year. It's a small sample size. He wasn't great in college. I don't know. If I'm legitimate, I'm trying to win in this league,
right.
I'd rather have a more veteran backup quarterback. So they do that with Drew Lock.
But they didn't really because he wasn't competing. And then he got hurt.
But forget competing. Like, now I moved away from competing to just get yourself a legitimate veteran backup quarterback.
Right.
They never made the pull because they still always felt DJ gave him the best chance to win, and he never got hurt.
Yeah.
So now the reason you flip Lock with DeVito, in my estimation, in my opinion, is because you know the season's over.
Right.
You're no longer going to the veteran who gives you a good chance to win. You're going to the project to see what you got. Now, Brian Daboll was asked this a lot. We'll play the audio in a few minutes. Hey, how did this guy go from 3 to 1? About the backup. That's the answer, but he can't give that answer because that answer includes saying the season is over.
Agreed.
He can't say. He's not going to say it. I'll say it. You can say. We'll all say it. The Giants' season is over. They're done.
As it pertains to the playoffs,
yes.
You're right. But there's still a lot for some of these guys to play for.
Sure. For the individual, absolutely. Maybe for the season ticket holder, absolutely. That's fine. But in terms of the season and winning, it's over. So when you're at that point in the year, what would you rather do? Would you rather play the veteran, quote unquote, who gives you the best chance to win, or the younger, more raw player who very well may answer a question for you for the future?
Right.
You go to the young player.
I didn't think that's exactly why this decision was made. And, you know, I feel for Daniel Jones in a way because all of the coordinators and head coaches and all the turmoil that he went through, the ACL injury, the constant pressure because there was no solid offensive line. I almost feel bad for him. But at the end of the day, the NFL is a bottom line business. And if you can't manufacture despite the failings of everybody around you, then ultimately it's going to be on you. And by the way, some of those failings were on Daniel Jones himself. And so I feel bad for him. But Daniel Jones is going to be all right. I don't know what he's going to go do post his NFL Giant career, but he has a career in the NFL. Maybe not as a starter, but he'll be around somebody somewhere for a while because he's smart, he's big, he's strong, he'd be a good backup quarterback, maybe even compete for a starting job somewhere else where the situation is better. But the New York Giants can't afford to sit around and just say, what if? Well, maybe. They can't do the maybe anymore. And so as much as this is about Tommy DeVito becoming the new starter for the New York Giants for the remaining 7 weeks of the season, who cares about that? That's not what's important. What's important is how does this franchise get itself back to winning? How does it get itself back to the expectation that every time you take the field, you're going to do something and not just hold your breath, hoping that something's going to happen.
Well, but here's the juxtaposition the Giants are now in, and I'm talking about the fans. Brian Daboll probably needs to win some games because he wants to ensure he comes back for another year.
Right.
There's no guarantee that he's surviving a 2-15 season, despite what John Mara said a few weeks ago. But really, it's the juxtaposition of you guys, Sean and Loogie back there, because they're both excited for Tommy DeVito. Tommy Lugauer, first of all, let's give him the love. Right. He wanted Tommy DeVito in August. So, Loogie, congratulations.
Thank you. Normally, I don't like any Christmas stuff before Thanksgiving, but today is my Christmas. Tommy DeVito is here, and I believe Tommy DeVito could be the Giants' starting quarterback for the next 10 years.
Very good. I'm glad you have
And I'm glad we're getting that opportunity.
By the way, does this officially mean that you can now stop being positive Tommy for the Jets? Because it's done.
Well, I think him not being positive Tommy has something to do with the Jets, by the way.
Right. But now you can come back to where you belong, Tommy. I will open you with open arms. As long as you renounce your Jet positive Tomminess, I will welcome you back because you got what you wanted.
I did.
You preached this at the beginning of the season. Nobody wanted to listen to you. We laughed at you.
We did.
We scoffed at the implication that would happen.
People wanted me fired. Well, that was Sean.
But Sean wanted you fired because Sean didn't want you to be right. But guess what? You're right. We'll welcome you back. Do you renounce the Jets? Positive Tommy of the Jets. Do you renounce the Jets?
You know what, Tommy? I'll make this easy for you. I'll make this very easy for you. As a Jet fan, as someone that recruited your positivity to Jet World to try to save our season, I'm doing this for you, and I'm doing this for Tiki. You're fired.
All right.
Nice. Welcome back, Tommy.
Positive Tommy has been signed by the Giants.
Welcome back,
with Tommy DeVito as his quarterback.
We don't need your stink with us anymore. The team sucks. The franchise is a disaster. We tried positive Tommy. Even that didn't work. So go back to the Giants. But you got what you wanted. Even Sean. Sean's a confused Giant fan because he wanted Daniel Jones, and he did, and then he did. All I know is that today, Sean Morash is wearing his Tommy Colored sweatshirt.
Right.
That's right.
What do you actually want, Sean?
Truthfully,
Yes. Short and long term.
short term, I want Tommy DeVito to make the Giants fun, but they lose every single game by a field goal.
See, that's the thing I was going to bring up. Like, Tommy DeVito's your quarterback and you want to evaluate him, but if you also thinking he's not our future, you're better off losing games to continue the tank.
I want to make this clear. If positive Tommy's right and DeVito takes off and they win out and we find out, damn, they have some, fine. I'll take Tommy DeVito as the future quarterback, but all I know is I want a future quarterback, and what I don't want is what happened last year where now the Giants don't have Jaden Daniels or Drake May. So, look, I'm going to sit down on Sunday. Am I going to root for the Giants to win a football game? Of course I am because I'm a fan. But I know ultimately in the back of my brain what happened last year can't happen this year. And as Tiki said, if there's really only two guys, that makes it harder to get to the top. Get to the top.
So what you want, basically, is you want to borrow the Jets' garbage fourth-quarter defense so that Tommy DeVito can he can get you in the end zone a couple of times, maybe he can give you a late lead, and then have a garbage, overrated defense allow an opponent to go, 70 yards in 2 minutes so that you can lose, but really pin the loss on your overrated crap defense. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, preferably not with Deontay Banks continuing to deteriorate.
By the way, he was talking about the Jets when he was talking about overrated crap defense.
Yeah,
He's not talking about the Giants right now.
So
He's
maybe
talking about what happened last night.
I was saying, do you want to
Yesterday
borrow?
afternoon.
Do you
I
want to
wanna borrow?
borrow our overrated garbage defense?
Do I want Cordell Flott just pointing into space and having somebody blow past him and lose games? Sure, I'll take it as long as DeVito gets in the end zone.
But that's the weird thing I think Giant fans now have. You got your guy, because I think most Giant fans over the last few weeks was ready for this change and ready to see Tommy DeVito.
Yes.
Okay, so we have Tommy DeVito, but then simultaneously, most of you still want to lose games so you get the other quarterback next year.
I think Sean said it perfectly. You wanted to see Tommy DeVito, but more importantly, you want a quarterback. You want someone who you can rally around and say, this is our guy. This is the guy who's going to help us win consistently for this year and next year and 5 years from now. Like the Lamar Jacksons of the world, even though he's been bad the last couple of weeks, but Josh Allen's of the world.
Right,
you want that player, the Joe Burrows of the world. Justin Herbert, you want that guy.
Tiki.
I don't care where he comes from or what he looks like. Hell, the Detroit Lions, it was not Jared Goff. When Dan Campbell took that job, Jared Goff was not the guy that was leading them to the promised land.
Right.
But you know what? In a very convoluted way, they found their guy. It wasn't traditional. They didn't go draft him. They didn't go, I sent my great scouts on the road, and look, they identified this guy, and we traded up, and we got him, and look at us, we're in the Super Bowl, or at least one of the favorites. Now the favorite to win the Super Bowl, the Detroit Lions are. It happened unconventional. intentionally. So, hell, if it happens with Tommy DeVito, God bless. If it happens because they stink and they got to go to draft one, God bless. But they just got to find that guy. We can't be set back for the years that we have been set back because we haven't found that guy at the most important position on a football team.
Yesterday was depressing for a couple reasons because after the Jets' disastrous of a loss, we got blessed with Chiefs-Bills into what ended up being an epic Sunday night after you stayed up and watched Burrow versus Herbert. And it really dawned on me as I'm sitting there, this is what I want.
Right.
It doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes.
No.
It doesn't even have to be Joe Burrow. But I want to wake up on a Sunday again where the pregame shows are funneling and somebody's at MetLife Stadium and the Giants are in a big late window game that matters every other week, something like that, like these teams are. And you don't get there without having a freaking franchise quarterback.
Can that guy be Tommy DeVito?
Tommy.
We'll get your calls coming up, 888-808-1019. We'll also listen to some of what Brian Daboll had to say in his announcement that Tommy DeVito is going to be the quarterback, including trying to answer the question of how he went from the third-string guy to the number one guy, and also what Brian Daboll says to the tankists of the world.